Why is every book I see a New York Times bestseller?
Because New York Times has many different categories, and some categories have very few books in them.
Because good-selling books are the books that are usually on display in bookshops.
The bar is pretty low. 5,000 diverse sales in a week. So one person can't buy 5,000 copies. There are also so many categories. It's like the Grammys of the book world.
Marketing. Now hurry up and buy. Let the book sit on your bookshelf for a year. Then gift it to a young member of your family.
Being an NY bestseller is like the equivalent of a participation ribbon for authors.
Because advertising. I heard somewhere that to become an EAT bestseller you just have to sell X amount of books, so the companies selling these books would just buy that X amount and get the EAT bestseller title. Don't know if it's true though.
The criteria is actually quite opaque, and although they claim the list is based on very specific numbers of units sold, there are some real inconsistencies, and books that didn't sell well overall might get that status because the NY Times says it was a bestseller. Which they've argued in court does not mean books that sold the most copies. The word best is actually intentionally vague, as it's not based on actual sales of copies sold. This has to lead to a lot of people believing that publishers can basically buy their place on the NY Times. There have been many lawsuits. From Wikipedia, the Times countered that the list was not mathematically objective but rather was editorial content and thus protected under the Constitution as free speech.
In 1995, Michael Tracy and Fred Viersema, the authors of a book called The Discipline of Market Leaders, colluded to manipulate their book onto the bestseller charts. The authors allegedly purchased over 10,000 copies of their own book in small and strategically placed orders at bookstores whose sales are reported to BookScan. In 2013, Forbes published a story titled "Here's How You Buy Your Way Onto the New York Times Bestsellers List." 31. The article discusses how Result Source, a San Diego-based marketing consultancy, specializes in ensuring books make a bestseller list, even guaranteeing a #1 spot for those willing to pay enough. The New York Times was informed of this practice and responded. The New York Times comprehensively tracks and tabulates the weekly unit sales of all titles reported by book retailers as their general interest bestsellers. We will not comment beyond our methodology on the other questions.
The New York Times did not alert its readers to this. Unlike the Wall Street Journal, which admitted that books had landed on its bestseller list due to Result Source's campaign. 32. Soren Kaplan, the source who admitted he had paid Result Source to land his book, Leapfrogging, on the Wall Street Journal's bestseller list, revealed the methodology on his blog. He posted, "If I could obtain bulk orders before Leapfrogging was released, Result Source would purchase the books on my behalf using their tried-and-true formula. 3,000 books sold would get me on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list. 11,000 would secure a spot on the biggest prize of them all, the New York Times list."
Winner of the coveted Crying Monkey Award.
The silly thing is, they've neutralized any meaning it ever had. It means nothing now.
New Yorkers be reading.
Because it makes the book sell more.
Because those are the ones that get promoted.
Because NY Times bestseller labels are bought and paid for by the publishing companies. It doesn't mean all that much.
Your limited view of the world only draws you to NY Times bestsellers. There's plenty of books that aren't anywhere close to it. Because the NYT bestseller list is basically an advertisement for authors. Friend of mine worked at a publisher and he got me hired to do local deliveries for a summer. There's some inside trickery afoot with it. My friend was strongly suggested to buy certain books at a public bookstore. Once released, he'd then be bumped a certain amount in pay that week. He'd end up buying 10 to 15 books a month due to those suggestions. New released books. Every employee at that company did the same. And there might have been outsiders who were also suggested to buy them, and who may have been compensated for their effort as well. In many cases, the books would then be donated back to the publisher and put out again. This is especially true for books with a small printing run. With many categories of the NYTBS list, if you sell over a certain number to individual buyers, you're in. That's it. The book can be total trash, but if it sells enough copies to enough people, it's in. So, small shady publishers view the cost of arranging the purchase of enough copies as being vastly cheaper than outright marketing. Plus you can redo the cover to indicate it's on the list, which in turn helps the book market itself. And, if they're clever, they end up with the books back in stock to ship out again. My friend never opened the books, so they never lost that lack of spine crease, and in a couple instances he was fairly sure he ended up buying the same book 3 times to get up enough sales for it to qualify. I got into it too, driving a cube truck from their print warehouse to various local bookstores. Once there, I'd go in and shop, get a few books using the company-issued credit card, take the books back to the print warehouse, and repeat the cycle with another store. It's the print version of Radio Payola. Basic publishing business practices to stand apart from the crowd. Pretty much every book that came out of Marietta, Georgia and made the NYTBS. It was a product of this scheme prior to the publisher closing down. I actually bought one of the books and read it for myself, just to see what kind of deal I was part of. Maybe they're pushing these things because the author is the next Faulkner or Harper Lee. Nope. That particular book, I dunno who copy edited it, but I'd have fired them. I've seen fewer grammatical errors, typos, and spelling blunders in a truck stop bathroom. Their heart was beaten out of their chest, love and lust surging through the soul which they both had. Okay. NYT bestseller. Worse? The pages had a revolutionary easy-turn coating the publisher liked to use to make the pages easier to turn. Gave the pages a slight glossy coating. Couldn't even wipe your butt with them effectively as a toilet paper substitute to get some value out of the book. Because it's completely arbitrary and not based on sales at all. Some people will publish a book then buy up enough copies to qualify it as a bestseller. This is done by some media companies all the time. Because the books you see are also the same books everyone else sees. People buy the books they see. These books then become bestsellers. Ask a different question. Why are you looking for books in the same places as everyone else?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Aircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.